Hello everybody and welcome back to another new vlog. Thank you for joining me once again today. I'm back here at Padley Gorge again today. I've been here a few times before in the Peak District, and the reason I've come back here today is because it is early November and look at the autumn colours all around me. I've got beautiful golden browns and oranges and still a little bit of green left over. And that's mainly because the different trees around here will all change colour at different times of the autumn period. So what I'm finding is all of the colours are very, very different from one tree to another. But it's creating this absolutely beautiful canvas of colour that I couldn't really resist coming to photograph. I'm going to head on up Padley Gorge now and see if I can find a couple of compositions. I'm actually taking a path that I've never taken before, but I'm sure this takes me onto another path that I have taken before, so I'm not really that concerned about it, and I know there's going to be plenty of compositions along the way anyway. So I've just got my first composition of the day. Hope you can hear me over the noise of this cascading waterfall behind me. I'll show you the image in just a moment, but basically just down here behind where I'm standing there is a cascading waterfall which falls down the brook in between Padley Gorge, and basically I'm standing here now in a position which is a little bit precarious to say the least, trying to capture a photo of that falls. There's a rock in the foreground which kind of leads your eye quite nicely into it, and to the left of the falls itself there is also a tree which has got these bright golden orange coloured leaves on it. So I've got that in the centre of the frame, and the waterfall's just off centre slightly, and the rock leading your eye into the image. Apart from that, there's not really much more to say about that. F16, half a second, and ISO 250. So here's the image. Guys, I just want to quickly interrupt just here. If you are at all interested in purchasing a calendar for 2026, some of my landscape photography images that I've produced over the last 12 months, then you can purchase one by clicking the link to the order page in the description below. I'll leave a link there. There's not very many copies left, so if you would like one, then now's the time to get one. They're only £15 and it's an A3 calendar. I've printed it single-sided as well, so that each image has got its own page. So if you decide at the end of 2026 that you want to keep some of the images, you can cut those out and frame them up and keep the images as they are. So I'll leave the link in the description below. Take a look at that if you're really interested. That takes you to my website, and I've also got some other prints available on the website as well, so do check that out if you can. So just above that last set of falls that I photographed, should I say the first set of falls that I photographed, there's another cascade as well. It's only about 50, maybe 75 yards further up the gorge as you walk up, but it's right near the top of the woodland. So as I get to there's a bridge as well that I need to cross to get to the other side of the brook itself, and then follow the path back down the opposite side of the brook back through Padley Gorge. But on the way up here I've stopped at a second set of falls, beautiful cascading falls, only quite small, but there's two or three of them together, and I like the look of that image. Unfortunately, quite often what tends to happen is you come here and there'll be people at this spot because it's a great spot for picnicking, and you often find that it's very, very busy and it's almost impossible to capture a decent shot here. But also just a little bit further behind me up the hill there's the main road, and at that point there where you get to the top of the hill and go out of the gate onto the main road, there's always an ice cream van parked up during the summer. So if you come here in the summer, that's the spot where everybody goes to get their ice creams when they've had the lunch. So this is the perfect area for a picnic. What it means is that you can't really capture a shot of that falls that I've just taken because there are so many people around it. Kids jumping in the water and climbing across the rocks in front of the falls and all kinds of things. But now there's nobody around, so I've managed to get a shot of that with the falls themselves leading you towards a bridge behind them. Now that's the bridge that I'm about to cross to get to the other side of the brook itself. But I quite like the bridge in the top left hand corner of the image and the falls working your way towards the bottom right hand corner of the image as you look, and that's portrait orientation, about 35mm, maybe just a little bit wider than that, probably about 28mm actually. But also then you've got obviously f/16. I've left the polarizer on the front of the lens as well. 24 to 105mm lens, and it's ISO 250, and again I think it's half a second exposure time. So I'll put the image up now, and now I'm going to cross the bridge and walk down the other side of the brook. I've just met, just a couple of minutes ago, a couple who I encountered on the walk about half an hour or so ago on the opposite side of the brook to where I am now. So they've obviously done the same or a very similar walk as I'm doing now, in the opposite way around. So I've come across the bridge now to the opposite side of the brook where previously I haven't walked down this path at all, and I'm going to go and see if I can find some interesting compositions here. This morning I've walked up this side of the brook to start with, and then I've crossed the bridge which has taken me over to the opposite side of the brook, and then found a path that I've previously walked along and then carried that path on up to the top of the gorge and the woodland, and then I've crossed back over the bridge and going back down a path now back on the other side of the gorge, which will take me back to where I started my walk this morning. Just along the way here I've spotted a perfect composition amongst the woodland where all the colours have just popped, and I've got these absolutely beautiful golden colours and the dark moss on the trees. So this is going to be a really interesting shot, so I hope you like this one as well. So those three trees there in that scene are an absolutely perfect composition really, and it's one I couldn't really afford to miss, to be honest. So again, it's 24 to 105mm at 24mm f/16, ISO 250, and I think this time it's 0.4 of a second rather than half a second, and it just works perfectly. And I've focused at that as well because each of those trees were slightly different distances apart, and so I had to make sure that I get the focus on all of those trees because they were the main part of that subject. So hope you like that image as well. I'm heading down now along this path at the other side of the brook, and I'm going to see if I can find another couple of images along the way. So I've now got back to a spot on the path where I cut off earlier this morning. Previously I was walking up this path behind me in this direction, and then I turned off down this little path just here which takes you down the side of a hill, and at the bottom you get to the brook again, as you can probably hear at the moment, and there are a couple of falls just there either side of another wooden bridge. Unfortunately when you get down there there's no composition either side of the bridge at all really, so I found it very difficult to capture a shot there. I didn't bother in the end. I stopped and had a look at it and thought, well, could I do this, could I do that, and there was just no way of really possibly getting in the right position to make a decent composition. So I'm not going to bother going back down there now. If I do, basically that path will take me all the way back down to the brook, back over the bridge, and then back up the other side of the brook where I've already walked today. So I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to carry on down this path now. The good thing about walking down this path at the moment is it's quite a steady straight path all the way back down to Grindleford, and I'm going to be quite happy to get there because that's where I've caught the train to this morning, and that's where I've got to catch the train back to Birmingham later this afternoon. But also in Grindleford there's a nice little cafe and a nice little pub that I could stop off at, so I'm going to stop at one of those two places and get some lunch, probably the pub to be honest. And then I also would like to try and send all of these images and video footage to the iPad Pro which I bought recently, and I'm going to try and do some editing of this video and the images on the way home, either whilst eating my lunch when I stop in Grindleford or on the train on the way home itself. So I'll see how that goes. But also, while I'm walking down this path, this is the point now where I've never actually walked on this path before. I came up this path a little earlier today and got to it from another part of the path which I have walked on before. So at this point now, I don't know anything at all about this path from this point to Grindleford itself. So I'm keeping a look at and taking a slow walk to see if I can see any more compositions along the way. It's looking fairly promising, so I'll let you know what I find. So this is a good example of why it's always a good idea to stop and turn around and look back where you've come from. But this is also a good example of why it's never a good idea to stop and turn around and look back where you've come from. Just behind me, on the far side of the path, a little way up here, there are a couple of trees, just a little cluster of trees just there. And behind that, there's another tree with lots of golden colour on it, very small tree, and that kind of sticks out either side of the other trees just behind me. Now, I was walking down this path and spotted that from further back and thought that could make a nice interesting composition, but not from this side of it. So I had to carry on past the colour to find the composition, if you see what I mean. And as I got further back down the path, past that colour, I've turned round and discovered these trees that are in the scene as well. Those trees really are the anchor point of the image. So I've stopped to take that image. I've got the trees on the left hand side of the image and all of that golden colour kind of centrally and towards the right hand side of the image. It's a portrait orientation because it makes use of the trees going upwards, of course. But obviously while I'm standing there setting up the camera, getting ready to go, I've stopped here and there's nobody at all on the path, set up the camera, turn around, and all of a sudden there's people walking through the image just as I'm about to set the shot. No idea where they came from. There was no sign of them in either direction, and there were 3 or 4 groups of people that walked through within the space of a few minutes. So it's taken me about 10 minutes to get set up and take the shot that I wanted to take. Luckily, there's not a breath of wind around here, and the composition isn't changing at all, and the light's not changing, so thankfully I was able to get a decent shot there. So I hope you like that one. I'm carrying on now towards Grindleford. So this here is Grindleford train station and the end of my journey today. I'm not actually going to go in here just yet. I'm just popping down here to show you it basically. Yeah, this is on the railway line between Manchester Piccadilly and Sheffield, and I'm only a few miles outside of Sheffield at the moment. So this is where I'm going to end my journey in a little while, but for now there's a cafe just up the road and over the railway bridge. I want to pop in there because I need to get to the loo, to be quite honest with you. But also then, after the cafe, I can walk down the road a little way and there's a pub just down the road. I've been in that pub before, so I'm going to see if I can get a drink in there and get something to eat as well in there. If not, I can always come back to the cafe. So if you've enjoyed this week's vlog, then please remember to give it a thumbs up, and also please remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And I look forward to seeing you again on another vlog very soon. Bye for now.